This is the second time, so now do you want me to give my public comment again?
You're welcome to, but it'll be in the minutes, and the land bank has a booth there and we'll be there.
Great, okay,
I'll be there too.
great. And this is also for people in the public that are also attending this meeting, so just want to make sure that it's out there. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Amy?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Kathy, I'm really excited to hear that you have Dow Orion coming. I'm actually on another board of directors with her for the Center for Rural Livelihoods, which is based outside Cottage Grove, Oregon. And it's all about sort of using sustainable land and forestry. And I definitely can't tell you all the amazing things that they're doing, but I think it's great that you have Dow coming. I'm really excited. So way to go.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. So moving on, I just want to comment that we have here the Land Bank Commissioners, four of us here, Tim, Mike, and me, Marilyn, and then on Zoom, we have Anne Marie, Brian, and Amy. So I just want to note that. The minutes. Any comments on the minutes?
I had a one word change that I should have just given to Tanya, but I forgot to talk to her before the meeting. I think that on page 2, we're talking about, it mentions the partnership between the home REIT and the land bank REIT. I think we should use the word relationship because I don't see that as a partnership. I see it as a relationship.
So on page 2, do you know where that is?
It's in the
Tanya? I'll find it. Okay,
top second paragraph.
okay. I have one comment. Anybody else? So in the meantime?
Oh, I have a couple very tiny ones. I noticed that Jacob Wagner is both in attendance and absent. So. Yeah, I feel sometimes. Yes, I can understand that. And then there are a couple just typo sorts of things, so I can just send those over to Tanya.
Okay. Anybody up there in Zoom, any comments on the minutes? I just have one little comment, and that is public comment from last meeting, Patrick O'Hannon, but his last name is O'Haron.
Oh, thank you.
Herren.
H-E-R-N.
Yeah,
Couldn't read it.
and I want to encourage us to not use too many acronyms, because I think if you're not in the midst of it all, you don't know what people are talking about.
I actually, I was gonna mention that as well, and I thought maybe I was the only one who was unfamiliar with the acronyms and had to think about it for a minute, but it was LSR was the one we thought. But I remembered it.
Oh,
So
I didn't spell it. Okay, I'll add that in. Thank you.
And
Thank
what
you
is
for
it?
the good.
Local salmon recovery, I think.
No.
Landscape was the
Oh.
restoration.
Oh, yeah, I think that's really important, because I had the same question. I thought, am I supposed to know this? I apologize. I'm usually pretty good about.
If we were more with it.
Yeah, there it is. I circled it
I
too.
like including subtle tests.
That was a subtle touch.
You want to know if we're paying attention.
Well, we paid attention enough to know we didn't know what we were talking about.
Okay, so any other comments? If not, then minutes are approved. Okay, Vicky, partner update from Preservation Trust.
Good morning, Vice Chair Bill, Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity to provide an update. I'm happy to share with you that our Katy Mountain Addition Conservation Easement closing with the land bank still is on target for February 26th. We have, since the last meeting, completed finalizing the majority of the legal documents for signature and closing. We've been working closely with the county's prosecuting attorney's office. Our outside legal counsel has been working closely with them, as well as Lincoln. And our executive committee meets this afternoon to review and hopefully approve the amended and restated cooperative agreement that we have with the land bank and the county. but everything is looking really good for the final closing on February 6th. So looking forward to our next meeting and being able to share that we were successful with that. And that's
I wanna
it,
give a
Vice
shout
Chair
out
Bell.
on that. Congratulations on that.
Many thanks for all those who helped support the project to help us get to the finish line. It's a fantastic project.
Anyone, any more on that one? You're good? Okay, Councilmember Minnie. I think, Christine,
That's
are you
me.
gonna give us an update?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Okay.
Happy Friday. Happy Friday. It's been a very busy week, so I'm really happy to say that it is Friday. And I'm off island. I have a meeting and an appointment. So I am coming to you virtually, though I'm not in my car. That for those of you new here, that's a joke because I have in the past often been in land bank meetings in my car. Let's see. I think last month I neglected to mention that at the council's first meeting in January, Jane Fuller was elected as this year's chair to the council. And I will be serving as vice chair. As Vicky pointed out or noted very well, council approved a resolution granting the conveyance of a conservation easement to the San Juan Preservation Trust for the Katy Mountain Edition at our February 6th meeting, I believe it was. And I think that we all are very happy to see that moving in the right direction. And thank you. There is an interim plan for county management while we are in our nationwide search for the next best county manager. And that the current plan is that Health and Community Services Director Mark Tompkins will serve as the interim county manager. Mr. Tompkins has been with the county since 1998 and I would say quite a leader within the organization for those 25 years. And we do have the addition of our county's Parks and Fair Director, Brandon Andrews, who will be serving as the interim assistant county manager. Speaking of the fair, is that that was a stretch, but the fair has announced its 100-year anniversary theme because this year is the 100th anniversary of the San Juan County Fairgrounds. And that theme is a century of growing, 100 years at home. There are new dates for the fair this year. This will be very interesting and confuse a whole lot of people because we're all used to that Wednesday through Saturday schedule, but this year's fair is going to be Thursday through Sunday. It always actually kind of confused me as to why we didn't run through Sunday. I guess there were various reasons throughout the years, but the reason that it is being switched this year is actually to accommodate the carnival's schedule. So I know you'll forget that by August, but it's worth noting. San Juan County published a 2024-2025 budget in brief, which is a great 12-page overview of the 500-page biennial budget that was approved for 24-25, and you can find that by going to the county website. So 12 pages is pretty easy to digest. This is a great, I don't think I've ever heard of this here, and certainly not in the time that I've been sitting on council, but there is an event. It is a free vessel turn-in event hosted by the San Juan County Derelict Vessel Program, the San Juan County Marine Resources Committee, the Port of Friday Harbor, Northwest Straits Commission and Washington State Department of Natural Resources. It is a program that is managed by DNR to help boats, obviously, from becoming derelict or abandoned. And anybody in Washington or who's a resident of Washington and has proof of ownership can register for a free vessel turn-in, but you have to register before March 1st. And I do believe that you can access that information on the county website. I just cannot imagine the logistics of this. It makes so much sense, but that's a big lift. Many county staff and council and many land bank staff were part of a tribal engagement training over the last 2 full days on San Juan Island. I think that since it was so recent, I think we're all sort of in the moment synthesizing, you know, what we learned or what we heard. I mean, if I could put into words what my takeaway was, I think I learned quite a decent bit about historic truth, tribal government structures, expectations in communication between organizations, and a lot about intertribal relations or relationships. But I think it's going to, you know, be quite a interesting conversation moving forward, having had that experience. I think I'll end by saying in early February, I spent a morning with Lincoln and Mr. Weiss, Chair Weiss, interviewing the applicants for the vacant commission positions. We had a great pool of candidates, and I am very appreciative of everybody's time. Of those that applied, there were 2 individuals who were chosen and appointed by council on February 6th, and they are both here today, Anne Marie Shanks and Tim Clark. And I did notice on the agenda that they're sort of listed underneath me, and I didn't know if that meant that this was an opportunity for them to have a few words, but I don't see why that wouldn't be. So I open that to you. How about Anne Marie?
Sure. Thanks, Christine. It's really delightful to be here, and I have a lot to learn. So I'm really looking forward to learning this year. And I made a lot of notes from the minutes and need to find out who the people to talk to are to get up to speed on everything. So looking forward to working with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne Marie. And Tim.
Good morning. I'm honored to be here. This is going to be a lot of work and a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it, honestly. That's about it.
Thank you. There are 2 more things. They're both selfishly about me. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to say that I and several other county staff, actually, so it is kind of a county thing, have spent the last 2 months in production for the San Juan Community Theater's winter production of Perfect Arrangement. It's a fantastic play. It's hilarious. It's sad. It's all around very good. So it runs February 22nd through March 3rd. Last but not least, I have asked for only 1 week off this whole year, and it happens to be March 16th through March 23rd, which means I will not be at next month's land bank meeting. That's it.
Christine, I think Marilyn has a question for you too.
Just
Yes,
a quick one. Christine, I wondered if the tribal engagement training was recorded so that
No.
others, okay, thank you.
No, in fact, this was just an observation, but you know, they had a screen up at times, sort of outlining different things that they were in the moment teaching us, and people were taking pictures of that screen, and it made the presenters nervous that even pictures were being taken. It was very, they were so plain speaking, and they didn't hold much back. And I think it was just an opportunity in a small group setting to be really given some plain talk. And I think that I think it was a great opportunity, but no, not recorded.
Okay, thanks.
There,
Amy,
no, good.
Yeah,
Amy?
Good morning, Councilwoman. So back to the tourism piece. My husband, who you know is with the Port of Seattle, tells me that there are tourism marketing grants, and I'm not sure if the county wants to promote the fair beyond the county. It's already pretty well known, but if you do, it sounds like there's $20,000. It's pretty easy to get, and
Is
that
it
there's a
specific to fair? Is specific to fair?
It's not specific to fair, but it's about tourism, and there's an informational session on February 22nd. So if your staff want to take a look,
Okay.
I can send you the link.
Okay. Thank you, Amy.
Okay. Thank you. Any further comments? If not, then we will move on to commissioner reports. And I guess chair report too. Anybody have any reports?
No, I don't have anything that won't be reported today. Thank you.
Anyone else? I do, but Tim? Mike?
Nope.
So kind of following up, I think I've brought this up several times now, but following up on Christine's report about the tribal engagement training. I do believe there still is a letter that was drafted from the land bank, intended to go to the tribes, and this was back last fall. It is still not gone, I believe, right, Christine, to council?
That's
And
right.
I
And I
did-
did, oh, I'm gonna let you finish and then I'll give you my information.
Okay. Well, I did hear from somebody who was at a Friends, kind of tribal, was on the Friends board and was at a tribal training. And she brought up, she said, you know, the word is out that San Juan County Land Bank does not care about engaging with the tribe. Following up on the Wapmo addition acquisition. So I corrected her. I said, no, in fact, we do care about that. And we did draft a letter. So I just wanted to bring that up again because I think it's so important. And
Thank you.
feedback
Peggy.
on it.
I just want to, I guess, clarify that the decision was made to get to this training or through this training to sort of get a good idea of the direction the letter should go, how it should go, and what it should look like all in all. And the training was actually supposed to be a month ago. It was postponed due to COVID at that time. So I think now we have a good foothold for understanding the best approach.
That's great. That'll be really wonderful. Mike?
So do we know when the letter's going out?
No, it has not even come to council yet.
So do
We
we have,
wanted to get through the tribal training first.
right? Okay,
So I'm assuming maybe following up on the tribal training that it needs to be redrafted, is that correct? Or maybe you don't know yet.
I don't know yet.
Okay, well, stay tuned, but thank you for working on that.
Thank you, Peggy.
Would I ask if we could see, if the commission could see a copy of the letter that we drafted again?
Archie.
Well, I think we have it somewhere, maybe staff has it.
You want to?
I just would like to
Fortify.
review it.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Is that all? Copy it?
I think that'd be great. And so here I am again. Another comment that I brought up a couple times is the discussion about hunting on our public lands. And as I pointed out before, this is pretty important to Lopesians. The hunting accident happened on land. It was actually BLM, but it was right next to land bank land. So we really need some progress, I think, on that. In terms of how we can manage that better so that we hopefully avoid future accidents. And
Can I ask a question about that too?
sure,
So I think right after that happened, Lincoln immediately wrote a letter to somebody and to us. I think we got a copy of it, stating exactly what our policy is and the fact that it was not our land, blah, blah, blah. What additional things should we be doing? I mean, is there signage? Is it public relations stuff? Is it communication? What's the thing you're hoping for?
you want to answer that?
I don't know that I have an answer. I think the idea was to at least have some kind of public meeting to hear from folks. And hear from the land managers where hunting is allowed. So currently, that's us on Lopez Hill and also on Mount Grant, and it's the BLM property. And I believe that's it. There's no DNR left, no Department of Natural Resources land left in the county where hunting is open. So we were hoping to have some kind of meeting, discussion, trying to set a course for whether we need to think more about safety regulations or seasons or whatever it is. There are a number of variables. The thing to remember too, though, is that hunting is basically the purview of the state Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. So they establish the seasons. The county has some control over certain things like types of weaponry. So we do have a restriction in weaponry that you can use for deer hunting. But I think it would make sense for us to have an agency and public conversation about people's feelings, and hopefully explore whatever opportunities we might come up with for making some changes if necessary.
Ask a question?
Yeah.
Do we have a written policy on hunting on those two properties? Do we have anything in writing?
I don't know that we have anything in writing. What we've established is that for Lopez Hill, hunting is open for the early part of the season. There are typically 2 seasons. And so we go from September basically through the end of October, and that's it. We don't open for those second seasons. And for Mount Grant, same thing there. It's a little bit more tightly controlled because we only have 1 parking space, and so we're making people register. So they basically reserve that parking space for that day or whatever period of time.
So my second question is, do we have any thoughts of ever opening any other properties that we currently own to hunting?
Yeah, we've talked about this on Turtleback. So that's something that was in the updated management plan. It's not that it was open, but that we'd be talking about that and making a decision about whether it's practical and how it might work.
So, yeah, so I've been told that, unbeknownst to me, Point Colville is not part of BLM, it's still Coast Guard. So there's a sign out there that says no hunting, but there still are vests out there. But my understanding is, and it's what we're doing at Lopez Hill, is that we can limit. That's what you're doing at Mount Grant. And so we do own Watmo and, going up over, and we will, I don't think we'll ever have hunting out at Watmo Head. But anyway, my understanding is there are some options for us maybe that are a little bit more than what we're doing. And I think marking boundaries, just so because no hunting on the Watmo Bay. So, but then all of a sudden you're on BLM, but nobody knows where those boundaries are. I don't even know.
So
So-
this accident took place a couple of months ago. or more.
November.
4 or 5 months ago.
Mm.
I think it's time sensitive, that clarity, make sure that we have good clarity around what, all the things you just talked about. Is there any reason we can't put a stake in the ground that you can report back to the commission on your recommendations or what you're doing, just keeping us in progress. My concern is another accident and we're still standing here. You know, I just wonder if we either should do it or we should not do it.
So my understanding was that council member Fuller was going to convene a public meeting at some point, and I've just been kind of waiting for that to happen. I can check in with her and see where that stands.
That'd be great.
That seemed like the next.
I think the council should, or county should take a lead in some of this stuff, so. Great.
Jim,
As far as the land banks preserves, Lopez Hill does have it in the existing management plan, which is getting quite old, so that's about to be revised, and I'm sure it will continue. But the process itself is slow. The hunting regulations for 2024 are already set. So there's no possibility of changing it with Washington DFW at this point for this year. But it would be good to start talking about it for 2025. They have to publish their pamphlet months ahead of time. In fact, it may already be out for 2024. So it takes a long time, but it's worth starting now.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it won't happen.
yeah. I personally keep bringing this up because there still is so much concern on Lopez.
Yeah.
With that, and just one other comment I wanted to make is, I'm so impressed with how much work is being done. And just reading the stewardship report and looking at the calendar, and then Tim and I both met with Amanda on a couple of different projects on Lopez and putting together a plan. It's impressive. So.
Yeah.
Busy, busy, busy.
If I can interrupt, Amanda had her hand up and I do as well, but I'll defer to Amanda first there on, I think on the hunting issue.
Amanda?
Hey, I'm unmuted. Okay. Yeah, I made a few notes. I did see Jane in person, so we talked about convening a meeting. It is on her radar. We do want to make it happen. The approach is to first fully get the agencies together to touch base and then to host a public meeting where we can kind of process what happened and maybe outline next steps. If any changes need to happen to hunting seasons. My other note was that Tim kind of covered this. While we don't, as a land bank, have a written policy, when hunting is allowed, it is written into the management plans. So Lopez Hill is covered in the Lopez Hill management plan, same with Mount Grant. And I believe, just kind of the having further discussion for Turtleback or and then I just made a note about, posting hunting signs. We do post no hunting signs when we finish hunting. But I hear that maybe at Watmow we need to have more clarity about exactly where those boundaries are so people know when they're beyond the BLM property and on the land bank. So we'll make sure to do that too.
Good.
We also do put out the orange vests at trailheads.
Oh, there's a lot of them out there still. Some of them got washed, but well. Thanks, Amanda.
Yeah.
That-
So I just wanted to bring in two other elements just to make sure they're in the conversation. The first is, when we've written into the Mount Grant plan in particular, was using this as a tool. The impact of deer on all of our habitats throughout the islands is just super pronounced. And there's a lot of good research that's been coming out from the Gulf Islands in particular that is showing, massive impacts into everything from pollinators and songbirds down to the floristic qualities. And again, this extends across kind of all habitats. So it's a very pronounced issue that is more than just the human safety element. The second part of that is linked in some ways is there is also this potential for tribal rights for hunting, and that's going to be something that probably will be percolating up over the next couple of years. And it's something that will need to be part of that consideration, is that cultural access and or protection of cultural resources. If it's kind of deemed that deer are having a deleterious effect on plant resources, that might be something that is sort of necessary to do some control measures on. So, thanks.
Good. Thanks so much. Look forward to learning more about that. Okay. So I think as part of this, any other commissioner reports or anything? Okay, as part of this one, we're also supposed to take our assignments for committees. Lincoln, you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have a few assignments of kind of committees and also subgroups that people can participate on, commissioners can participate in. Some of those are other being liaison to other county advisory committees. One of those is the Climate Advisory Committee. We're looking for a liaison for that one in particular. Some of the other ones, most of the other ones are internal, external. We do have a group that meets quarterly with the San Juan Preservation Trust. And so typically we've got 3 commissioners who sit on that group and be part of that meeting. So we are looking for volunteers for that. Also, we have a communications subcommittee to talk about communications issues, which will be particularly important this year. We need people on to participate in that as well. And then we have an ag leasing group. I think that one's kind of coming together. That's fairly critical in the next month or two, because we will be talking about lease applications for 2 properties on San Juan. And I think we had a strategic plan group. We are closing the loop on that. So that one's over with. And I think that's it.
We have a commissioner assigned to work with our financial officer. And
Right.
that's me right now, because Mike did his term.
That's all I want to do.
Oh.
He's passed the torch to me
Yes, I
for
did.
financial.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You earned it.
Okay, so, sounds like we need somebody to sign up for the climate. And maybe you could say a little more about that. Is that
No,
a
I've been-
county committee?
I've been on that committee for the last 6 months or so, as the liaison, and have attended several Zoom meetings. It's a pretty broad committee. It seems to me to be, focused on a longer term, issues related to the county planning updates, and it's, not a good fit for me personally, because I have more immediate concerns about climate and sustainability than are mirrored by that committee, but I think it's important that someone attend and participate. So if someone else would like to take that over, that would be great.
I would be glad to take that up.
Yay, Jim.
Great. I'm happy to chat with you about it later.
Yes.
Yeah, so Tim is gonna sign up for the climate committee. Preservation Trust liaison.
You have one from each island? Is
I'm
that-
happy to do it from,
I'll volunteer for that. This is Brian.
You have an Orcas. Hi, Brian. And Peggy, are you gonna do it again?
yeah, I'm happy to do it from Lopez.
Okay, which
We need San Juan.
San Wander, it's you or me, Mike,
Mike.
Well, Amy.
or Amy, but I don't see her hand up.
Well, I was hoping to be on the communications.
Yeah,
Oh, that would be great.
Okay, I will re-up for Preservation Trust.
Okay, and I
Okay.
also was asked by Charlie to work on a little group that's gonna be looking at the new pieces.
Yeah.
Right.
Beaverton and the other one.
So that's,
So I don't know if that's a permanent member of that or just for those specific.
It's just, we only convene those as we have
Okay.
leases that are coming up, so that should be a fairly short term.
Okay, I volunteered to do that as well, so. That's,
and Jim is also gonna be on that.
yeah, sure.
Right,
And I,
Mike and I are
abstained.
on communications.
I'll do
okay.
communications also for Orcas.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
So, and then Marilyn, wait, who's doing financial? You are going to, you're willing to do that. Okay, so we have the ag leasing review, and I have recused myself from that one. But I'm wondering, is there a need for kind of a broader ag committee? Maybe not.
You can do that if you want to.
Okay, no, we'll come back to that if we
Alright.
need to. Okay, so that's great. So
these are
we've got,
pretty much ad hoc, right? Like, and these things can be added and deducted and changed. as
Yeah.
time. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So it may be that at some point ag needs
Yeah.
its own committee. Yeah.
So
okay,
just so I'm clear. San Juan Preservation Trust is Peggy, Brian, Marilyn. Communications, Mike Pickett, Anne Marie,
And Marilyn.
and Marilyn's on that one too.
Jim is climate.
Tim is climate, Marilyn's financial. So Marilyn,
Tim and Mike are ag leasing.
Tim and Mike are at that side.
Good. Thanks.
Thanks. Megan.
Okay, moving on. Aaron.
Okay,
Oh, I can't see you down there. There you go.
I'm here. All right, so I'm just gonna give a very brief overview of the 2024 budget. We do have two new commissioners. In January, we did, try and hide that. Looks like a full screen, that's pretty. I just wanted to give a brief overview of some budget numbers for 2024, some, beginning cash, major revenues, general categories for how we separate out our budget, just to give you guys a refresher. We did go through the 2023 last year. I figure with new commissioners, it made sense to just give a very brief update. Share that. Let's see if that helps. Oh, yeah, it's better. Okay, first, we're gonna look at the Conservation Area Fund, and for the two new commissioners, we do have two separate funds. We have the Conservation Area Fund, that is most of the administrative and acquisition operations. It is also where we receive our real estate excise tax, also known as REIT revenue. That is our main revenue source for the land bank. That money does come in through the Conservation Area Fund, and then we do make quarterly transfers to the Stewardship Fund for operations. So that leads into the Stewardship Fund and how they operate. It gives them the funds to operate. So first, we're gonna look at cash holdings for beginning cash. I have it separated out at the top, and beginning cash on hand is 873,000, almost 874,000, with local government investment pool, which is LGIP. That is our government investment fund. We do receive interest on that. That's fixed, controlled. There isn't a lot of wiggle room within there. There are, some investment opportunities that we can do there in terms of bonds and treasuries that we can invest some funds into if we feel like it's necessary, but that's what the LGIP or local government investment pool is. And that sits at just over 5.5 million in holdings.
Aaron, do you mind questions during your presentation, or would you
Sure.
like us to hold them? I have a question about transfers into LGIP, whether the treasurer has any limitations on how frequently you can transfer money in and out of the pool?
Nope, there's no limitations. We have it currently set up to review begin cash on hand and investment holdings quarterly. So for the Conservation Area Fund, we want to keep that with cash on hand around 1 million. And then the rest into the LGIP, given that interest rates are really good right now. So it makes sense to keep money in there. And then for the Stewardship Fund, to keep cash on hand around 1.5 million, as more expenditures come out of there. And then the rest into LGIP. So yes, so that's set up quarterly, but if something comes up where we have a purchase, you know, an opportunity for an acquisition that comes up and we need that money on hand, we can take it out at any time.
I'm personally interested in the opposite move, which is having as much invested as possible, especially while interest rates are high, as I've mentioned before. So I'm curious to know whether there's a way to refine our cash flow needs
Of
to
course.
be able to move even more. I don't want to make a difficult situation for you, but I wondered if there were any policies related to what we could do. It sounds like we have pretty much free rein.
Yeah, we do have free reign. You know, last year we did set those thresholds towards the end of the year at 1 million and 1.5. Based on what happens throughout, you know, a quarterly basis with expenditures, just to give us some wiggle room, but we can take a look at that and we can adjust it. I mean, there's no limit. We can set it to whatever commission's comfortable with.
I second that, and I think it'd be great if you could work with them to
Yeah.
figure out an ideal number and.
Well, in my previous life, I can remember transferring money in as I created batches of expenditures. That, so as to maximize, interest wherever possible. And I know that we're kind of new to this high interest rate scenario. So it's getting my attention more than it might have really.
Yeah, there's been a few instances where there might have been a 3-month span where we put money in or took money out. So at least on a monthly basis, there hasn't been any issue. I haven't asked specifically to the treasurer if, you know, weekly, daily, you know, what limits there were, but I
Yeah.
can't think of any scenario outside of monthly that would make a major impact for, you know, where we feel like we need to make more than one transfer per month. And we've done that in the past without any penalty or, you know, finance charge.
Thank you. I didn't want to take all of your time from your.
Oh, it's okay.
I do have another question. The second line up there, LGIP. So beginning cash plus REIT, less acquisition, ending cash, I get. But what is that second line item? Is that a revenue or a cost, or how do you get into this analysis?
The LGIP, that's just
the
our,
investment.
that's our investment.
That's a
account.
balance.
That's a
Yeah.
balance.
So beginning cash plus LGIP
Is what we
equals
have.
our cash that's sitting in the Conservation Area Fund.
Yes.
And we received 3.7 million in REIT. And
That's the
spent 276
anticipation.
million, and that's where we get the ending cash.
Well, this is again, just a summary and a highlight of,
It's not expected, it's not, it's not an analysis, it's just
No.
line item by line item.
this isn't line item by line item. This is just an overview of our main revenue, where beginning cash is, what, you know, acquisition costs. People always, you know, wonder how much we're gonna be spending in acquisition. The line that is missing from there, I mean, there's a whole bunch of budget lines that
Yeah.
are missing from there. This is just a quick summary of some
Alright.
specific points. There isn't
I'll wait.
a specific analysis to this. It's just a quick overview of some numbers that are in the budget for twenty
And
twenty-four.
this is for last year,
No, this is
current
the
budget?
budget for 2024.
I see.
This is
Okay,
just
thanks.
to give an overview with 2 new commissioners of a highlight of what is in the budget for 2024.
Aaron, I have a question. As far as interest goes, with LGIP and ending cash line, do we have a projected interest income?
I have not projected income with the current interest rate as it sits. I do get a monthly update from the treasury of what that month's interest rate was.
Right.
So I can make a a projection for what interest would be.
Okay.
And show that, because I'm still planning on, we'll do our quarterly updates with where we stand, but yeah, this is just an overview of, hey, this is what was in the budget for this year. Just so we have eyes on some of these numbers that, everyone gets comfortable with seeing these things repetitively. So when we go into scenarios where we're looking at amendments or quarterly financial statements from, that you guys are just repetitively seeing these numbers.
One more quick one. Does the county treasurer do what we're talking about you doing for the county level, at the county level? Do they go in and out of LGIP and do they analyze like what they think go forward interest rates might be?
I would assume it's department by department. I don't know. I would assume that Treasury is in and out of LGIP. But do I know? I don't specifically know.
Yeah, I just think
what the
it
county
would be
does.
valuable probably to get their insight. I mean, they probably have a manager. We're talking
The treasurer, yeah.
significantly more than what we have invested, especially when property taxes come around. So I would suspect that the council talks to the treasurer or the treasurer talks to the council periodically about how they're investing the funds and, what they expect things to be in the future.
Mhm.
It'd be good to have that information for you.
Yeah.
It might be just,
We have had, in the past, we have had conversations with the treasurer in terms of what financial companies to work with for setting up laddered treasury and bond investments and things like that, but they've kind of left it up to us to do what we want. But I know Rhonda is always helpful whenever approaching her for advice.
I'm just gonna quote Mike, just one little thing. One more little thing, sorry. I'm sorry, this is what I care about. I thought that since we have new commissioners on board, it's important to have a refresher about the fact that acquisition costs are a budgeted number that fluctuates and is therefore reflected in a revised budget offering periodically as we move through the 2-year cycle.
Yeah. So if you guys are good, I'll keep going and get down and get down to that. No, we're through 2 lines here. We're through 2 lines, so it's good. So this year we did project in the budget conservative number of 3.75 million in real size excise tax revenue. Again, that is our main revenue source for the land bank. Acquisition cost, yes, that number is low at 276,000. That is because we do not have any current properties that we're under contract with to purchase. And if that does change, as Marilyn said, we will have to throw it in an amended budget. So that number is in there and that'll increase. And then in terms of the budget, ending cash combined between cash and LGIP funds for the end of the year projected is 5.9, almost 6 million in conservation area fund cash. On the stewardship management and maintenance fund, again, this fund is set up for operations for the stewardship staff and management of all properties, and it is funded through a quarterly transfer from the conservation area fund based on projected management, maintenance, and site enhancement spending in the budget, along with a $500,000 annual endowment fund transfer. And that happens at the end of the year. And that is just to continually build up our LGIP balance for management in perpetuity. So beginning cash and LGIP, let's look at here. We have 1.6 million in cash and 4.3 million in LGIP. The combined admin, management, and maintenance, which this is our just day-to-day operating expenses and projects to keep the preserves open and functional. Looking to spend about 2 million on that for the year. And then for site enhancement, those are capital expenditures. So those are the big projects that add value and parking lots, infrastructure, buildings, things like that. We have 618,500 in that. A lot of that is for, Beaverton Marsh, new trails, Katy Mountain Trailhead and restrooms. On Orcas, a lot of work to continue improving and getting North Shore property ready for opening. That's a huge part of it. Turtleback Mountain, south entrance. Oh, sorry, that's for 2025. So most of those expenses are for North Shore, and then Watmo addition, again, a new property that we're looking to do some preparation and site enhancement there for getting that property open as well. And then Caulfield Farm has a lot of fencing, and along with a lot of our ag properties, Charlie's gonna be doing a lot of fencing this year. So that's what makes up some of the big projects for management, maintenance, and site enhancement. And then ending cash projection for the end of 2024, combined at 6.697, so almost $6.7 million in stewardship management and maintenance fund. So that is a little bit of our budget overview. And then here, it doesn't show up too well on the screen, lines anyways, but this is a chart that Lincoln and I came up with, a way to show stewardship spending compared to REIT over the years, and show that, as we move forward, we're spending more and more on property management and maintenance compared, to our REIT. So this is a percentage of our REIT and what we're spending in stewardship. So as you can see, even though we did have some big acquisitions in 2022, you see that reflected in 2023, the increase in percentage of our REIT revenue being spent on stewardship activities. So we felt that it was important to show as we get our REIT in, where we're spending that money and how we're spending it compared to more acquisition. We're not doing less stewardship activities so we can buy more property. We're trending towards spending more in stewardship and getting some of these preserves open and keeping up on stewardship tasks. So this is just a line graph to show that percentage of increase over time, starting in 2023.
Since it's hard to see on the screen, I'm pretty sure people can see it if they've got a printout or they're on the computer, but that top line is 46. 0.43%. So we're getting close. That the top line on the graph is 50%.
So that's not an indication that we doubled our spending on stewardship in 2 years, right?
Because REIT changes every year too, so.
REIT comes down, and also acquisition comes into this and administrative. So while I think it's a good analysis to have and to look at, because I don't think people appreciate how much effort and energy we spend on our existing properties. They just get all excited about anything we do new. And this shows that we are spending a tremendous amount of our time and effort and money preserving and enhancing and improving the properties that we have. And that's really what they paid us for. So
Really important.
I think it's a good analysis for that. But I think it should be noted that we didn't spend 24%. Spending 24% of REIT 2 years ago wasn't an indication we dropped our REIT spending. I mean, our stewardship spending. It was indication we had a big acquisition.
We had a much higher REIT as well, so. percentage of REIT changes.
True.
Yeah, in 2021, where it is showing 24%, that is our record high in REIT at $6.7
Right,
million.
yeah,
So
so it's.
it is comparative.
You have to know the
Yeah, well, I
qualifiers.
keep thinking about new ways to show this, but this is
Yeah, and
meaningful.
we should talk about that, Mike, on our communications,
Okay,
committee.
Great
That's one of
idea.
My big interests.
Good.
And that's all I have for you guys today, just a little primer for
Which you thought
everybody.
would be over in about 2 minutes.
5 minutes.
I welcome questions. I have no problem with it.
for our new members, they should know that every quarter you do a pretty thorough financial review with the commission, so they can expect that in April.
Yes, I just reached out to Tim and Anne Marie to get some information and establish contact, and I will reach out to both of them to set up a time to just go over the basic finances of how we operate,
Yeah.
bring them up to speed.
Great.
And always, you know, now that you guys have my direct email, don't hesitate to ask. I love answering questions and helping you guys out. So we'll get everyone up to speed. And yes, every quarter we will review the financial standings of where we are.
Great.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Aaron.
Madam Chair, before Aaron leaves, I have my hand up.
Oh, I can't see you very well. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, I understand. Just a quick comment. I wanted to commend Aaron on the line graph. I think that shows really simply and clearly over time, or the trend over time. And that particular way of combining stewardship spending and REIT revenues is a very interesting trend. I don't know whether a lot of people outside the land bank will understand that. I wonder, however, whether it would be clearer if that particular thing were shown as two separate lines. You don't have to answer that now, but you know, just think about it. Just a thought. Anyway,
Brian.
good job. Thank you.
Just to follow up on that, if you're gonna do more work on this, we might wanna look at, levels of spending in both departments and the REIT, if we wanted to do
Yeah.
line graph.
Yeah.
That would be even more informative.
Yeah, you know, I think this opens a good segue. Obviously, you guys are interested in and appreciate this, and it could be a topic of conversation for, you know, monthly throughout this year specifically. We do come with a targeted aspect of our operations and how we can show that financially and really pinpoint exactly what it is we're trying to show. And have something different monthly. I'm more than happy to pull something together so there's a visual aspect of.
I'm super
a
interested
specific
in how
task.
we communicate financial information to the public.
Yep.
In this most simple and clear way, so, thank you.
We did actually look at adding those other two. We started there, and felt that it got confusing, honestly. So, but we can go back through it and come up with all kinds of.
I love
Yes.
that.
Yeah, we
Talk about that.
had 3 or 4 different iterations before we ended up on the final that kind of showed best what we were trying to express without muddying up a chart. But, yeah, happy to show more of this, and get these, visuals out there. You know, if we can maybe show them monthly, I'm
Thank you.
more than happy to.
Okay, thank you. So I'm noticing, time-wise, that it's 9:30. And Amy Vera, our prosecuting attorney, is here and she's gonna do a presentation. So I'm proposing we take the stewardship report and do that after Amy's presentation.
Whatever, I was gonna stay for a whole meeting, so you can put me wherever is convenient for you.
I think that's good for her to go now.
I think so too.
I'm happy to go now.
Thank you.
Having looked at the room, I think it makes sense if I just snuggle up to this table here, because the people on the screen will see the PowerPoint, and then you all can see me, and that makes good sense, so.
You sit next to Aaron, that way if you have to do anything with the.
Well, I'm giving her the
We can give your.
laptop.
I'm taking control.
Tanya, pull that down, that shade.
Oh, that's right. Wow.
Backlit.
There's low.
Thank you.
Turned around and it's like a big spotlighted, yeah. This is a good spot with the heater. Should have been sitting here the whole morning. Okay, I just hit the arrow to move myself forward.
Yes.
Okay. All right, you guys can all hear me. Can everyone online hear me? Yes, Brian, can you hear me? Amy, the other Amy, yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
Amy,
yes,
thanks.
Okay, good.
Yep.
It's hard without the feedback behind you. So if you guys see waving behind me, let me know.
So Amy Trainer, do you have a comment?
No, I was just giving a thumbs up that I could hear. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you for having me. I am here today to talk about the Open Public Meetings Act and campaign regulations. Most all of you have heard me talk about the Open Public Meetings Act before. Even the new commissioners, I think, have heard it in other contexts probably. So hopefully this is a refresher, but it's always good to be reminded. What's not here that's been here in the past is public records. I usually do those two together. I wanted to sort of focus on these things for this year, and that was Lincoln's suggestion as well. But I'm always happy to talk about public records. All of you can contact me on your own or through Lincoln if you have public records questions or are concerned about your duties as land bank commissioners. And I can come back if that becomes a hot topic, but I don't think it's something that you've struggled with much in the last couple of years. It used to be a really arduous ordeal for the land bank. We were constantly getting public records requests. I think that has settled and we have a good system now, but it is not omitted here because it's not important, so. All right. So, is that showing? It is. These are the three things we're going to talk about today. As I said, open public meetings, limits on campaign activities, and I have a little tiny slide at the end. It's talking about the services that our office provides and how that can work with you guys. So we will launch right in. It's pretty dry. I welcome questions at any time if you had them. OPMA, Open Public Meetings Act, it's governed by Chapter 4230. And in its essence, what it is, one of our sunshine laws. So it is the right of the citizens of the state of Washington to know what its government is doing. And we do that through the Public Records Act and their ability to request documents and see them, and through the Open Public Meetings Act and the public's ability and right to participate in and observe the workings of government, which is what we are doing right now. So it declares that all meetings are open and public, that this applies to agencies and sub-agencies, and that to qualify as a meeting, it is a majority of your members. So we've got 7 here, so it's 4 of you. There's lots of nuance in all of these. So what is a government body? What is a sub-agency? I'm going to talk about it as it applies to you all, and I've heard your discussion earlier about your committees, so we can touch briefly on that as well. But the main rule I want you to take away is if there are 4 of you together, you should be seriously considering whether you have an open public meeting situation. This does not apply to social situations. If you're all at a birthday party or doing something like that, that's not a public meeting because you're not doing business of the government. You're doing some other thing. But I would still like you to run through that exercise in your mind before you even do that. There's going to be 4 of you together. Erin has the magic touch. Okay, so what does this mean? There's a lot of words on this slide, but it's basically what I just went over. If you are 4 or more of you are discussing the business of the land bank, that is a meeting that qualifies and it should be done in an open public meeting. this also applies to email or phone conversations, text, any way that you are communicating could be a meeting. It doesn't need to be in a room or on Zoom together. You should never vote outside a public meeting or make decisions or discuss how you plan to vote or anything like that. And you should avoid, this is kind of confusing there at the bottom, what I just said, like talking about options. So one place where I see this go right throughout the county is you're trying to decide when to have a meeting. And you guys have a pretty set schedule, so hopefully this doesn't happen, but maybe you need a special meeting and you're talking about, should we have it on Wednesday? No, I'm not available Wednesday. Can we have it Thursday? And then suddenly you're talking about substantive things. It happens so easily. You just slide into and then you have this email robust conversation about business. And the way to avoid that is to work through your staff. You have a lovely staff here that provides these things. So if you need to talk about logistics, like a meeting that seemed like something you should all be able to do, just don't do it. Just communicate with Lincoln or Tanya or whomever is the appropriate person about your scheduling concerns and let them be the one to corral that and to figure it out. And then you're never putting yourself in a situation where, you know, it's just so easy with email, especially, to just cross that line.
I just wanted to ask you to emphasize, email, because the issue when you send an email to someone and she sends it to someone else and they send it to someone. And as soon as you have 4 people on that list, it's an open public meeting.
Yes, we have.
It's a public meeting, whether it's open or not is a question. So it's a,
I have slides.
oh, great. Thank you. That's what I worry about.
What about if there's less than 4 of you? So just 2 of you are after this meeting or out in the hall talking, you know, that's fine. That's fine and that's an advantage of a bigger commission when you just have 3. That can never happen, but with 7, you can have side conversations, but you still want to be very cautious, and especially on topics of voting and decisions and things, for exactly what Marilyn just talked about. The serial meeting, it can happen most commonly in email, but also with phone tree sort of situations. So Mike and Tim have a conversation about a topic that you're going to consider for a vote. And then later, Tim and Marilyn have a conversation, and then Marilyn and Peggy have a conversation. You've just had a meeting of 4. You've been sharing, you know, particularly when you're saying, you talked to Tim, he said this, and you know, it happens so organically. And I think that's my message. No one that I know of in the county has ever sat down and said, I'd like to violate that act. Let's have a secret meeting in my garage at midnight and do a bunch of things that we're not supposed to do. You're never gonna think that. I don't expect that. It just happens accidentally when you're not really on guard about these principles. And so that's, you know, are you gonna talk in groups of 2 and 3? Of course you are. And is that okay? It is. But just be mindful of these rules, and that then if you're talking to someone else, that you're not carrying that information forward, and that you're talking generally or venting or expressing some opinions, but you're not really talking about, I'm against this and here's why and here's all my reasons. Because that's a conversation that should happen here, where everyone that's interested in that subject can understand your thought process and see the workings of the government. So, all right. There's a lot of other requirements. Your staff is managing these things, but I put them up here just so we all know. You have to have minutes, you have to have a time and place, an agenda, a physical location. You can have a remote location as well, which is clearly what we are doing here. Ability for the public to participate in person or remotely. Public comment period, which I know you have at the start of every meeting. So those are all things that are required. You are all doing them. Your staff is managing that. When those laws change, which they have done frequently in the last few years with the pandemic, I update county staff and they are right on top of it. It's worth talking about. Okay, penalties when you don't comply. So if there is an Open Public Meetings Act violation, what happens? It comes about when someone files a lawsuit. Any citizen can file a lawsuit and say, hey, I think that this group violated the OPMA. And if then you have a lawsuit, depending on what that looks like, probably the county is representing you in that, and that is true if you are acting in good faith in the course of your business here. So if you guys get a lawsuit for violating the Open Public Meetings Act, we'll talk about it, and the county probably defends. In the hypothetical where you're in your garage at midnight intentionally doing something you know you shouldn't, county is not your friend then. That becomes your problem. But imagining that you're all trying to do your best work here and we find ourselves in a lawsuit nonetheless, then we litigate that. If it's found that there was a violation, whatever action occurred in violation is null and void. So sometimes that's not a big deal. If you were just voting on some policy, now that policy is null and void, you need to redo that process. If you were voting on a purchase, an acquisition, or some major financial thing, and that becomes null and void, you have a really big legal fiasco now, because everything after that's now void, and it can be extremely damaging to those transactions, your relationships with your partners in those areas and that kind of thing. So that's a real reason to be careful, especially with those types of things, if you're following all the rules. There's also penalties. If the first penalty is $500, the second and subsequent are $1,000. To get the penalty, you have to have knowingly violated. That seems like that would never happen, because why would you ever do that? But the courts sometimes say, if you've had a training like you're having now, and then there's a violation, you should have known, even though you didn't intentionally do it. So knowing and intentional are different. And those penalties go to the individual, not to the agency. But what the agency bears the cost of is all of the litigation costs. So obviously the county's paying its costs, but we are also then paying whoever sued us, their attorney's fees and their costs. And that usually is the biggest number in public records and open public. The attorney's fees that we pay the party that has sued us is hundreds of thousands of dollars typically. So those are the consequences of violating it. I emphasize it again, just so we all know the framework that we're working with here. Let's see what is next. Okay, I'm changing topics, so maybe I'll just go back to that one and make sure we don't have any questions about the OPMA.
I do.
Yeah.
We've just announced or made committee assignments.
Oh, yes, committees. I did not have a slide for that.
There's more than three
Okay.
on that committee.
So we have, what?
I counted, there's no more than three.
Right, but
Commissioners.
so you have three on the San Juan Preservation Trust one, right? And when that person comes back to somebody else and says, here's what happened at the meeting, is that a violation?
It's not.
Or was a fourth
specifically-
person gets
No, I-
involved?
Yes.
I'm looking at you.
Yes,
That's-
no, that's fine. We should talk about it. So I believe it's very intentional that you only ever have three on these things, and it's exactly for that reason. So they are having discussions that are not on behalf of the land bank, but are representative of the land bank in that, and then they're reporting it back to you in an open meeting, and you're all talking about it, and that is okay. Does that
Yeah, but
distinction
if
make
they,
sense?
if one of them reported it back to one of us on a phone call, is that now four people?
It depends on the topic. So this is where it becomes, if they, trying to think of an example, if. Probably not, because probably what you're doing at those committee meetings is more about the topic of that committee and less about land bank. Where you don't want to have a serial meeting is where you're doing land bank
Okay.
business.
Well, it could be
So-
another committee though, that's less associated with the Preservation Trust, it might be leasing decision or something.
Yes, like if you have a finance committee and you have three of you that are talking about the finances of the land bank, and then you call the fourth one and say, here's what we're thinking, this would be good. I would not do
Yeah,
that.
okay.
I would save that for this forum here, and you can all talk about, we three got together and we have these recommendations.
That makes sense.
And
Okay,
then, yeah, so,
thank you.
yeah, I would not do that. The other thing about committees to keep in mind, which does not apply to any committees you have now, but in the future, should you consider committees, is that they're not subject to the Open Public Meetings Act, regardless of, as long as there are less than four, as long as they don't have decision-making authority for the bigger group. So if you were to form a finance committee of three and give them the authority to make decisions with Lincoln, Now they need to follow these rules as well. So we can't kind of take our decision-making power and hide it behind a closed door. But so long as their task is just to make recommendations that come here for you all to decide in this venue, you're good. Sometimes it may make sense to shuffle off a little bit of decisioning to a smaller group, and that's fine, but then you just need to make sure that you're working with your staff, that when they meet, they are
If there's,
following these,
if there's more than three,
no matter the number.
no matter the number.
If you're giving them decision-making power, if you're
Right,
saying.
okay, so
Yeah.
but we were talking about interest rates on the state thing. And counseling with Aaron, a couple of people would be okay. They're just counseling, they're not directing, they don't have the authority. He's got the authority.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, yeah, if the decision-making authority is with staff, that's fine. If it's decision that the board should or the commission should normally make. And then the 7 of you say, you know, we don't need to meet about this 4 more times. Why don't you two just go figure it out? And then your vote, or I guess 3 would make more sense. You 3 go figure it out, and in your vote controls, that process needs to take place in the public. It would be unusual for that to happen. We would talk about it if that were gonna happen and make a plan, but it's just better to do it as a group here.
Sure.
That's your system, and that's probably your preference. That way you all get to weigh in on those things. Okay, any other OPMA issues online, in the room? No, okay, we're moving on to campaigning. This is a new talk because it is a campaign year and we're talking about land bank renewal. And so we're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of campaigning as a public official. I debated whether public official is the right word, but I think it is. Your commissioners, you have status in the public as land bank commissioners. So what is your role there? This is not for staff. Staff has different rules that maybe we should talk about when we have more staff together. So this is for you guys as volunteers and how you straddle that line. So we have pretty strict laws in the state of Washington. The main one is 4217A555. And it talks about the restriction of using public facilities and resources to support or oppose a ballot issue. Let's see, I have some notes here too. Okay. So again, lots of words here on the slide. I apologize, but I wanted to make sure we had a good understanding of what this is. So that statute can be complicated and there's lots of different interpretations of all of the words, just like with the OPMA. What is a resource? What is this? What is that? I have tried to boil it down so that we can talk about it. If you're trying to influence how someone votes, that's probably campaigning. So if you're just providing information, giving facts, vote yes or no. I'm not trying to sway you. I'm just saying, you know, here are the facts, here are the numbers, here's the things. That's not campaign. That's fact. The providing of facts. But if you are persuading in any way, influencing, you're probably campaigning, and I think that gives you kind of a good line to go off of. Resources is really anything that the government paid for. So it's much easier for staff for me to sort of delineate what that is. It's all their work stuff, right? It's paper, it's copiers, office equipment. For you guys, it's employee time. So using employees while they're on the county payroll, it's meeting space and other county related time, like, you know, here now we're in this room, we have all this stuff. This is on county time. And it's your county email. You all have land bank emails, correct?
That's gonna be my next
They do not.
question.
Oh, okay. I thought we took care of that. Okay, so
Are we
I
going
would
to?
like you all to have land bank emails, but I'm not sure that anyone in this room can control that.
Yeah, it's a question that's come up for me in terms of like what public records. And so it gets a little confusing.
Okay, I think we need to follow up on that, Lincoln and I, because every volunteer for San Juan County cannot have a San Juan County email. I understand that. We have strove to have the bigger volunteer boards have them. So I know the planning commission has planning commissioner emails. I thought the Land Bank Commission had Land Bank Commission emails. So I will check and Lincoln will help me and we will, figure that out, because that's the easy answer. You have a Land Bank email, that's your business. You have your personal, and that's not. Right now, not having that, I would encourage you to think about ways you could separate it. So I don't know all your emailing preferences, but if you use Gmail or something like that, you could make a, you know, tim@thelandbank@gmail.com address, and you just do all your land bank business that way. And I would say the same thing for campaigning. If you want to keep those things separate, let's have a different form of communication for campaigning. So if you want to be on a pro or against political campaign group, keep that separate from whatever you're doing your regular land bank business on, so that you aren't monkeying it.
So does the, if I, as a private individual, decide to work on any campaign in the world, that's, does that have, that doesn't have to be tracked separately because it's my private choice, but, one of my concerns is that if you use your personal computer and your personal email for land bank business, does that not make you discoverable?
Yep.
It
Under
can.
PRA?
It can, and that is one of the reasons to have a land bank email. Now, your computer, not necessarily. Your volunteers, you're gonna get spreadsheets and things, you're gonna look at them at home, and just opening them and looking at them on a computer does not open up your whole computer. There is a modicum of practical sense still in the law about that. If you're generating documents, it's super cautious, but I would save them on a thumb drive or something like that. And then there's just never a question about your computer hard drive and your personal things. If you all have a thumb drive, probably the county would give you all a thumb drive for that purpose that you call your land bank stuff. And if you are generating documents or need to save stuff, you just save it on that. And then there's never a question. All my land bank business is here. The email is more complicated, and the clean answer is to have a county email. I certainly think that's the right way to proceed. Maybe there are practical reasons that that's not possible, so we will follow up on that one. That caught me on, I'm caught off guard by the fact that you don't have that, so we will see. And if that's not a thing that you can have, I will provide you with far more detailed suggestions on how you might manage that.
Why is it a problem?
I think we can do it, honestly.
I mean, all the staff have land bank emails.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know why it would be a problem, but here we sit in 2024 and I'm hearing for the.
I would say it's more of a practical issue than anything else, that, it's common in my experience, if you're dealing with people who have multiple emails, who send them an email, they're not checking that email. So you have to send emails to other emails, tell them to check that email. And that's really what that is, frankly. It's a matter of getting used to checking that.
Maybe we can assume they're trainable.
I think you could set up alerts now. I am not an IT expert, but I do believe you could have, like, if you all use Gmail or Outlook or what have you, that you can have an alert to tell you that there's an email in your other account, and then you would know. And you also probably could get into a routine and like I check it 3 days a week, or, you know, I think there's lots of ways to make it work, but first we need to get you the emails. So we'll table that.
Table it till next month. Can we have some report back next month on what we're gonna do about this? That'd be helpful, because I think with the campaign starting to get fired up, we don't wanna mess around with that.
Well, we can go ahead and just set it up if you want.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah, I'd love to have
All
a
right.
separate email for all land bank business.
Okay.
Because it helps me to keep everything separated, you know, it's rich. And I, you know,
Well,
I think it's really logical for everybody.
when I was on the planning commission, we had a separate county email,
Right.
Yes.
and that was pretty easy to manage. I didn't, unless I missed a bunch of emails, it seemed to-
Yeah,
Seemed to
the
be-
planning commission has had separate emails for many years, and in my mind, you guys were right there with them, so I have obviously confused my commissions, and I apologize.
Well, let's get it fixed.
We will have a look at that. So back to the campaigning, in any case, you don't if you did have a county email for land bank, that would not be an email to use for any kind of campaign. Right, so that's a clear line. What can you do? That may be easier than talking about all the things you can't do. You can wear campaign buttons when you're in the land bank office or when you're in commissioner meetings. That's expressing your personal opinion about campaigns, so you can just be totally bedazzled in campaign propaganda if you want when you're participating in your capacity as a commissioner. And you can express your opinions on social media on your personal accounts using private devices, not county devices, as long as you are clear that you are expressing a personal opinion. So you don't want to ever make a statement that either overtly says or implies that you are speaking for the land bank or the county. So you want to be speaking for you. You can say, I'm a commissioner and I'm speaking for me. So you can use your title and acknowledge your position and speak for yourself. Does that make sense? I think that's a really important principle, because it does matter that you're commissioners and people will want to know that, but you're still speaking for you. Which makes sense because you're one of 7. You can't speak for the whole group. And then this last one is really more something probably that staff is going to do, but you may do it as a commission together, which is statements that are part of normal and regular conduct of the land bank are allowed, even if they relate to a campaign. And that is such a thing as neutral and objective presentations of facts, which often happens where you're presenting financials, here's the impact of this if it passes or doesn't pass, here's fact sheets about the past or the future or all of that. It's neutral. That's perfectly fine. You guys could have a whole meeting and just talk about what kind of information you're gonna put on the webpage or prepare flyers for. But if it tilts into, well, I think this is more persuasive, or I find, now you're trying to influence votes, that should not be happening here. You all can do that outside of the county. You can have groups amongst yourself or with others that are designed to influence a campaign in favor or against, but just don't mingle this space with that. Yeah? Okay, and we are happy to answer questions at our office, and I know Lincoln also is well familiar with these rules, so as we work through the year, if situations come up, just ask so that we can help give you some guidance on how to navigate what that looks like.
So.
Yes.
Recently, there was a opinion letter in one of the local things about the land bank, negative. Somebody didn't know what they're talking about, but they still did it. And it was, I can't remember exactly, but it might have been in the context of the campaign, but it was clearly intended to influence people about the land bank. What is the restriction of the land bank in responding to that, or the individual commissioners responding to that
Individual commissioners can respond.
as individual commissioners?
Yes, as long as you say, I'm speaking, this is my opinion. I'm not speaking on behalf of the land bank or the county.
Okay, what about the commission?
The commission, no, and the land bank, no, because we're all restricted.
So where's the line? There's an interesting line, because we just finished a strat plan that included a number of surveys, got feedback from the public. We don't understand how you work with the San Juan Compensation Trust. How do you respond to some of those things while making sure you're not violating the vote yes or vote no, or, why you don't do that? Is that an easy thing to figure out how to do?
It's not easy, no, but you are allowed to do your normal and regular conduct. And I think customer service and addressing the needs of the citizens and meeting your mission statement, all of those things are accomplished with your surveys and with, just because providing a good service may influence someone's vote, that's not campaigning. It's when your intent in the action and your objective or goal of the activity or discussion is to influence votes. That's where the line is. And it's a really fuzzy and
Well,
rather broad
yeah,
line.
because it's to respond to our constituents who paid for this thing. And yet, and are gonna vote on this thing, but not, it's responding to their needs, their lack of information or whatever, without influencing how they will feel about us when it comes to election time. So I'm just, it's clear to me in a lot of cases what to do and what not to do. It just, especially with the strategic plan and all the surveying we did, and I feel like I want to respond to a lot of the understandings out there in the community about what we do and et cetera, but I'm also reluctant to do something that they may say, or someone, the other side may say, this is, you clearly was his intent.
Well, sorry. That would be a county IT. As an individual commissioner, you can
Yeah.
respond. All of you can respond as long as you're clear that you're responding
Okay,
as an
that's
individual.
probably the
So
best way to do it.
that's certainly easy for each of you to do. As a commission, as a whole, and as a department, as the land bank, as including staff and everything, the focus should be on your mission and in the services you're providing to the community.
Okay.
When I looked at your strategic plan and, there's concern about this or people don't understand that, responding to those needs, to me, is part of furthering your mission of providing the good service. That
Okay.
Like, we want to be helping the public. We want them to understand what we're doing. We want, and I would just divorce that from the campaign and focus on that. And then as individuals, you can do that. And then if you want a separate campaign group that talks about strategy and things like that, you do that outside of this.
We have a question from Anne Marie, and Brian made the comment that you can provide factual information.
Yes.
And then we have a question from Anne Marie.
Yes.
So Amy, I understand that if, like we can use fact sheets and things like that, but for example, say, the campaign is working on Orcas and we're going to have a group of people getting together and we know that they're really concerned about hunting. And we know that we have policy documents that outline or fact sheets that outline what the land bank's position is on hunting. And we know that they'll address the turtleback questions. So my question to you is, if we knew 150 people were coming to that meeting and we wanted to have handouts, do we need to copy those and pay for those out of campaign resources? Or since it's already a land bank document, can we copy those at the land bank?
It's a dicey line, Anne Marie, because you can't use resources for campaign purposes. Now, is this a thing that the land bank would do anyway? If they say there's a bunch of people that are interested in the hunting regulations, can we make 20 or 100 copies of this thing to make available? Yes, that's totally okay. Is that going to be interpreted differently when you then present them at a campaign thing? Yes. So I think there's a question here of what's technically okay and what chance I would take if it were me. So if it were my decision to make, I would separate that, all the finances of that and pay for it out of campaign or, private money.
Okay.
Again,
Thank
not because that is technically not okay, but because you're getting into such a fine distinction there that I wouldn't want to have that argument later, and you don't. I would just go super safe there.
Thank you.
But if those individual situations come up and you want to talk about them, and it's not hypothetical, then I think each time, talk to Lincoln, talk to our office, and let's sort of work through it. But I'm always going to advise extra caution.
Yeah.
Sure.
Probably beyond what is required. So,
Thank you.
yes. Okay, that is all of my do's and don'ts, and as with the OPMA, we have consequences when we run afoul of this. So a violation of these campaigning rules can be brought by any citizen. I don't think there's any restrictions of any kind on that. So just anyone, even unrelated to this in any way, can bring this lawsuit. And unlike the OPMA, you're not represented by San Juan County, and the reason is because if you are in fact campaigning, you clearly were not doing county business because there's the strict divide there. And the penalty for a violation can be up to $10,000 per violation, which there could be many violations alleged in one lawsuit. So it's a harsh thing. And that is why the advice you will receive from us throughout the year will be extra cautious. And so probably you could go up, right up to a line. I would not be comfortable with that, and I wouldn't ever want to suggest that to you guys when you have these kinds of consequences hanging out there.
Can we have an example of a consequence that would cost each of us $10,000? Just out of,
Well, I mean, like a really
well, if
appalling one would be as soon as I finish this training, maybe we'll all say, let's, you know, I'd like to talk about what we're gonna do about
Yeah.
land bank.
and that's
recertification.
an individual problem, even if we're,
Yeah,
you know.
I think how you figure it out, it's probably a violation for each person that participated. It might be a violation depending on if you take votes, you could have a violation per vote. It could become nuts, you know, just like with the Public Records Act. The penalties can be extreme. Typically, a judge, you know, uses some common sense and sort of groups them together, but you know, you want to know what your farthest out possibility is, and that would be just like every little thing that you did. I mean, not just speaking, you can't get a violation for just the same, you know, but if you then took 5 votes on things or directed staff to do 6 things, yeah, those could just tally up very quickly. Should that ever happen, I don't expect it would. Those of you that don't want to find yourself in that position should object and leave. Okay, yeah, so, but that, you know, it's gonna be something more subtle. It's gonna be an email that's accidentally sent with a land bank signature, or a conversation that happens in a county building. You know, usually lawsuits are about stuff like that. We haven't had any lawsuits under this law in the time I've been to county, so that's great. But you want to be thinking about.
This isn't really related to this, but, we don't always vote on everything. We seem to operate more by consensus, which seems to work. But I just wanted to emphasize the point that, a decision has to be made by a board in open public session in order to be a legitimate decision. And it can't be because one person decides or 2 people decide, but we have to be clear. I mean, that's kind of why I like voting, because it's a little more clear, but, you know, an individual doesn't speak for the land bank, they speak for themselves. If you want to speak for the land bank, you have to have a decision made in public meetings. Either by consensus or by vote. I just think that's kind of a foundational piece.
Voting is excellent when you have diverse opinions, because it clarifies, you know, if everybody's on a different page, then you vote, you call the question, you vote, you know where it's going. A lot of times your staff and director are probably looking for direction. It's not a thing that requires a decision from you, but clearly they all want to operate in the same direction that you are. You know, everyone wants to row in the same direction, so they're taking your temperature and getting feedback, and consensus is great for that. If there's not a consensus, I'm sure Lincoln has another path forward for how to deal with that. Like, okay, we're not all on the same page, so we need to take some more steps to figure out how to move forward. But there are formal things that you vote about, budgets and big decisions, and that of course requires proper vote. You know, this commission does important decision making and also a lot of advising, and so you're gonna have a mix of that. Yeah, if you staff people have anything to chime in here, you please do, because you're here all the time living in. So that ends that portion of the talk. Questions? Any more questions? No. All right.
Quick question. You say contact your office if we have any questions about something that we need clarity on.
Yes.
We used to have a liaison.
Yes.
Do we have a liaison? Is that the person we would go to?
The prosecutor's office is here to assist you. So, yeah, well, this is the third part of the presentation is the shortest part, but I thought we have a somewhat new board and with new members and I have looked at your strategic plan as well and saw some of the issues that you saw and getting legal advice and things. And so we have made a new path forward as well with Lincoln that I hope is workable and I welcome feedback from you on how you see that playing out. But this slide is just kind of to give you an overview of what our office does and how it affects the land bank to the extent that you don't know that. So we are, working on processes and procedures. We're giving legal advice regularly to staff on things that probably don't all cross your table here. We provide trainings like this to all sorts of people. We do contracts and then we defend lawsuits. Fortunately, you haven't had to live that for some number of years now, right, Lincoln? It's 5-ish or so?
Lawsuit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've erased that from my.
The good coping mechanism. There was a time when there was just constant, where that was probably the primary interaction with our office. So I'm happy that that's not what is happening now. So what I am planning is that someone from our office will attend all of your meetings and be sitting here as I have been sitting here. And my objective there is just to be more on the same page about what's going on, to be able to hear things directly from us. If you have questions, hopefully if questions come up, many of them can just be answered right then and you don't have to ask Lincoln to ask us to then follow up later. We're not computers. We're not gonna know the answer to every question that you have right then, but at least we can have a conversation, we can get more information and we can report back to you. And just have a little bit more interaction in that way and alleviate some of the wait time in getting answers to questions that you guys have had come up. So I've looked at your schedule. I see in the June meeting, there's no one in our office that's available to attend, but otherwise I think we can mostly do it. And I have a final slide that I'm sure they would be delighted that I am providing here, but who are we? There are 6 attorneys in our office, but on the civil side, you have me. There's no picture of me because I'm here. And John Kane and Mason Wiley. I think most of you are probably familiar with John. He's been with the county for almost 18 years. He's probably the one you will see the most because he does the most work with the land bank, but Mason has joined our office last year. He's our other civil deputy. He works a lot with Department of Community Development. Between the 3 of us, you will see one of us and it'll probably just shift depending on schedules and things. So that's who we are. Yes.
So I sent out a month reminder with meeting materials and the agenda with the link of how to access it to commission staff, partners, Christine, our council liaison. Who should I add? Should I add all 3 of you as?
And me for
BCC?
now, and I'll see if they want me to
Just that way you can
Yeah,
send
and
it
then
to
I'll-
whoever's gonna be coming.
Yeah, I think that. makes
Okay.
good sense. Yeah, thank you. And then I noticed just this morning that my last slide just says thank you. And it should have had our office numbers and email on there. So, if you have questions, just in between meetings and things, the most appropriate thing typically is going to be to direct those to Lincoln and let him sort of gather them and work with our office on them. And that's also more efficient because we're not going to be able to respond to all of you all the time in a timely manner. At meetings, where we'll be here to answer your questions and things. And the exception to all of that is if you have questions about campaigning at any time, you should just contact our office directly and feel free to include Lincoln so he knows what's going on. But I want to be sure that you are assisted through that process quickly. So we are going to prioritize that topic to make sure that we're all doing what we should be doing and that you are still free to engage in the activities that you choose as we move forward. So Lincoln knows how to contact us. I can send an email with our emails and phone and all of that, but we're on the webpage. We should not be hard to find.
Need a special signal that they flash up.
Yes. There's a little light in the office that flashes. It's very elaborate.
Okay, thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Very much.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome. So, in the interest of time, we're gonna take a break.
Yeah.
A very short break, so please come back as quick as you can. And then we'll do the stewardship report.
Yeah.
How would you like to do it?
I think that we should do that. We've got one topic in particular that I'm going to cover, and
Okay, and then we'll move on to your report,
Yeah.
and we'll have to kind of keep moving.
This is probably for somebody else. It's sitting on my desk.
They're extras. Okay, so we'll have a break and please come back. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Amy. That was great. I would love that. We are coming back into the meeting and being recorded. And we're gonna do a quick stewardship report, which we kind of jumped around, and I
Yeah.
think that's Lincoln.
yeah, I'll take the issue that I have anyway.
Okay,
Which is about the North Shore property. As you know, we've been on this for some time, and we've been referring to it as exactly that, and the question has been, well, we're gonna have to come up with a name for this preserve. We have a naming policy, which you have in your materials, and I'm sure everyone is a little bit familiar with it. This is an interesting one in that, we always hope when we purchase a property, there's some defining characteristic in the name that is obvious. Sometimes that's not true. That's why we have the channel preserve on Lopez. There's nothing historical, there's no feature, there's no, anything about it, so we have to come up with some name. In this case, people took to calling this the North Shore Preserve property. And that's really what we're proposing. We haven't come up with any alternative, no one's advanced a bid. We haven't had a, contest or anything, and people have been talking about it, referring to it as that quite some time. It seems appropriate just to make that the official name of the preserve.
I think that makes perfect sense.
me too, I'm all for it.
It sounds like the public has taken to it too, and I gather there is no other North Shore name floating about that it could be confused with.
There
Not
will
that-
always be confusion, but I think it's probably as good as we're gonna get.
I'm
I
gonna
love
jump in
that.
here,
Yeah.
if I may, Peg. I've proposed two other names that I've given to Peter. I haven't brought them to the commission, but I would like at least for them to be considered. As well as others, if anybody wants to bring any. I personally find the North Shore name to be extremely generic, and I think we can do better.
Go ahead.
Brian, I don't recall the names that you proposed. Maybe I missed that somewhere.
You don't recall my having given you some information from the Historical Museum on
Oh, okay.
former names
Oh, yeah.
of the property?
Okay, I think I didn't associate those with, I remember the materials. I don't think I associated those with the name of the property for some reason, but.
Yeah, that's what we're
Right.
talking about. So I don't have them at hand right now in Mexico, but I can certainly provide them. I think I have them in my files. So I
Okay.
would suggest that in terms of this preserve, since we're not approving a management plan yet, we have some time. I will submit those names and we might have I don't know if I want to say a contest, but we might ask the public if they have any other proposals.
Brian, one thing that we try to do in the naming policy, and again, I can't think of what the names were you were proposing, but I wonder if they were former resort names, which is the kind of thing I think we're trying to avoid. But
One of them was the former resort name. My read of the naming policy was that we were trying to avoid personal or family names, like the names of the donor or seller, not the names of properties. So if they called their properties Sunny Hills or something like that, that would be okay. That was my interpretation.
I have a question related to how much time we actually have. So, you know, we are gonna be working on the management plan, but this also came up from our partners with the trust that have signs and some official things to move forward with. So I don't know if we need to check with them about when we need to make a decision and when we open up some big process. We can really see that through. Peter or Lincoln, I don't know if you have a sense for a time frame, or if we should follow up on that.
Who wants to weigh in on this one?
I don't know that I have a sense of timeframe. I guess what I would propose though, since Brian's got some alternate suggestions, is that we table this and bring it back at the next commission meeting for final decision.
That'd be
We
great.
could do that. Brian will be away still, so I'm not sure you're gonna have the names in mind.
Yeah, I will be, I will not be able to attend the next meeting, I don't think, because I'll be in transit. But hopefully, and I think that I have the couple of names that I researched at the Historical Museum in my computer files. If I do, I will forward them to all of the commissioners. Is that okay?
Sure.
That's a meeting.
Okay.
That is information. We're not voting on it. It's
That's
just
right.
information for consideration at a future meeting. Oh, you were joking, Mike. Okay.
No, I didn't, well, partially,
Brian, why don't you just send them to me and I'll disseminate.
better.
Sounds like
That's
a great
fine.
plan.
I will do so.
The only thing is, I'm looking for lots of opportunities to reinforce our strategic plan with the community. And we know that agriculture, recreation, and environmental are three very important reasons they'd like us to do acquisitions for. So, and it's more, I don't know that you can put that into a name, you know, like Zylstra Farm, that would be agriculture, that's what the main reason we did it, whatever. But I think some consideration that when you look at it on a sign, you know what it is, you know, is it a hiking trails or, I don't know how to do that, but I just think some consideration should be given to that if you're gonna open it up for naming.
Well, in this case, waterfront on Orcas is in short supply, and the fact that it identifies it as shore, I think is an important component of the name. So, if we have that, I'd be happy, but I'm certainly willing to postpone the decision, because I think it's really, needs to be locally promoted, so it's kind of Peter and Brian, it's, you know, I mean, when they talk on Orcas, Anne Marie might have some ideas about it.
Okay. I think we're gonna revisit this next month and we're gonna keep moving. I just have one comment. In the stewardship and management plan, we keep referring to the Watmo Bay public scoping, and there we are right there. Watmo Head is different than Watmo Bay. So if we want to be consistent, even in just generally naming a property, that would be one change I think should do from this.
Well,
Yeah, go.
that's a good question for that property.
Oh.
Because what we've been referring to it as Watmo Bay addition, since it adjoins our existing Watmo Bay property. It's up to you, if you feel that you want to distinguish it from the other, you know, we can create a separate name for it. Separate preserve, even though they're connected, that's all your fault.
Well, Watmo Bay Edition is not a good preserved name.
No, we would, that's a project name, so it would just be part of Watmo Bay. We hadn't thought of creating a separate name for the hedge property.
So the management plan would encompass both properties.
Yeah.
So Amanda's got a comment. Amanda,
I'm unmuting. Yeah, I think this is something I'd like to bring up at the scoping meeting and give even the public an opportunity to comment. But yeah, certainly when we buy adjacent properties, they usually absorb into the existing preserve, like Lopez Hill, although I've been calling the addition to that the addition, just to kind of keep that project moving along. But it is worth consideration if this is distinct enough to have a separate name. Yeah, conversation to continue having.
okay. Yeah,
Um,
okay.
Peg, quick question if I may. Is the naming policy a policy or is it a draft? There was in the materials, there was a page that said draft just before it. And I can't remember whether we adopted that policy or whether it's a draft.
We did adopt it.
Okay.
Aaron says yes.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Any further comments? Then we'll move on to. We're done with stewardship?
Well, I don't know. Let's throw that open and see if anybody has
Oh.
other stewardship things.
Anybody have any other questions, comments about stewardship?
No, other than it looks great. There's been a lot of work going on, even though it's winter time, and I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, and I will say again, it's incredible how much work is being done and all these openings. It's really exciting. It's good work, everyone. Yeah. Okay. Then Lincoln.
All
You're
right,
up.
so you have the hopefully getting close to final draft of the strategic plan.
You're just on the committee. That's all.
Oh, I was on the committee, but I don't have the draft.
Here we go.
Should have that.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
I think we sent it to your land bank email.
Apparently. you did. Thank you.
Okay.
So sorry.
Um,
Do you want to share? I'll share the page.
Sure, no, it's fine. So this is what we're hoping is a close to final draft that came back to us from the consultant on Wednesday, I think. This is your opportunity to take a look at it. And the thinking is that this is getting, as I said, quite close. So the opportunity to do major revisions has probably passed. But if you see things in there that you have significant issues with, concerns over, I just talked to Mike a bit about fleshing out one section, which I think I can do. But please take a look at this if you haven't already, over the weekend. And I think we've got a deadline, supposedly the end of the day, Monday, which is going to be difficult because I'm not going to work on President's Day. So Tuesday, hopefully we can get whatever comments we have back to them so that they can finalize. And I would say, among other things, we probably really want to provide them with some additional visuals, photos, things like that. I'm not thrilled with the cover photo.
No.
So if you've looked this over and you have questions, this is the time to talk about it. If not, please take a look at it. Once you all sign off on it, I'm gonna have a conversation with the council. Christine's already seen the draft, but I'd like to get it to the rest of the council to make sure they're aware of what's going on, and then we'll put it out to the public to get some public feedback. And I do think we've had a lot of public process around this plan, particularly with the engaged survey that went out and where we had 600 responses. But this is the chance to show them our final product. And following on that, we'll want to talk, I think what we're going to end up focusing on for the most part here once this is approved, is those immediate next steps and how we're gonna do those. So we'll be talking through a communications plan. That's certainly one of the things that's in here. And we'll be talking about conservation priorities, also and a variety of other things.
And I did that, I'm sorry, I didn't have that. Missed it in the meeting.
Hope you printed. Oh, good. Does anybody, Jim, have you got
I
some
have-
comments?
Some minor changes dealing with semicolons and things of that sort. But also on the number of properties open to the public, it was 8 on Lopez, and I believe there are 9 if you're including the Spencer Spit edition.
One of my favorite topics. I seem to revisit that every couple of weeks. How many do we have?
I was just running through the list on this fantastic binder. And let's see, I think that's still approved. If Spencer Spit is open.
Yeah, it's open.
So
How many are not open? Just out of curiosity. And do they each have a planned open date?
No, they did not.
Some will not be open.
Some will not be open. So we have 39 preserves, if that number is correct. But
Go with it.
pretty sure that's right.
Yeah.
So 30, possibly 31. We may have included that in the 30s. I'll have to go take another look at it, but we have at least 30 open to the public out of 39. We have plans to open Katy Mountain here. And so that'll be an additional one. And then North Shore. If we are creating a separate preserve at Watmow, then we'll be opening that one as well. Otherwise, we'll just be opening the addition or Watmow Head property to the public.
Is Beaverton already open? Is that considered open?
Has been open, but this is kind of like it's a totally new experience for people. So we'll be opening the connection from Lindy Park to Beaverton, to a section of the preserve that's not accessible from the other side. And hopefully that will be happening in the spring. And I think did we give them our schedule of openings and
Yes.
meetings? Did you all get that?
I think so.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
So you could look through that and see the variety of things that are happening. And that's part of the communications effort for sure.
Yeah.
Because in advance of opening preserves, we're going to be having management plan, public meetings. And then we'll have an official opening of the property. So we've got one plan for this spring and 2 for the fall. At this point.
Openings?
Yeah.
And that would be up to 33 then, or 34 or something like that?
Well, the only one, the 2 that are officially open would be North Shore and Katy Mountain. The others are add-ons.
Okay, so I guess back to my original question, are there some that will never be opened?
Yeah, there are some properties which we're not opening to public access for a number of reasons. Some examples are things like Entrance Mountain, which is only accessed by a private road, very difficult to get to. And the property itself is not terribly conducive. It's incredibly picturesque, but it's not terribly conducive to creating a trail or public access. It's more valuable as a reserve area, which most people will recognize because they go by on the ferry every time they go to the mainland. If you look off to the left, you see 2 properties on Orcas as you're going by the Lopez ferry landing. Both on the opposite sides of East Sound, the entrance to East Sound. One is Diamond Hill, which is also not open, again, ecological reserve. And then there are 2 bumps on the other side, and those are entrance mountains.
Okay,
Mount Constitution is in the background. And that those were some of the principal reasons that we purchased those properties was particularly to preserve that view as people are coming into the county. That's something that's, you know, really pretty incredible.
well, it sounds like there's ecological reasons for doing it.
Yeah.
You know, not recreational reasons or agriculture reasons. That was specifically,
Right.
yeah,
And-
okay,
And also access difficulties.
okay. All right, thank you.
So I might have missed.
Madam Chair,
Yeah,
Oh,
I have my.
yes,
if I may, I'm
Brian.
sorry, nobody's seeing my raised hand.
And I
We've
have mine
kind
up
of,
too when Brian finishes.
Sorry about that.
okay, we've kind of glanced over the strategic plan, and having been on the committee and probably having seen too many iterations of it already, I'm curious to hear how the other commissioners who hadn't seen it before it was sent out see it, and if you have any reactions to it in general. I mean, other than semicolons.
Anne Marie,
Yes, I had two questions and I'm really late to the dance, so excuse me. But the first one is, who is the audience? And then the second question is, in the opening letter from the chair, I think it really makes us incredibly vulnerable to have the first thing that we say is that this is our first strategic plan in 30 years. And it may sound, I don't know, like I'm nitpicking on it, but I just think for a lot of people that work and do plans and that's how they live their lives and run their businesses, it just opens us up to a lot of vulnerabilities. And I don't know why it's important for people to know that. So
That's
that's,
coming from a planner.
well, I'm just saying, you know,
Yes,
just
it's a
my
good-
take on it.
Good
And
point, Anne Marie. I hadn't thought of it.
I saw it very much as an internal document. So something that's going to guide the staff, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think the executive summary for the public will be incredibly important.
Yeah, I agree with that. I hadn't noticed that before, but it's superfluous information. It doesn't change anything, and it just says we've been operating without one for 30 years and now we're gonna do one. I'm not sure it matters. I'd remove it, but I don't know, the other members of the
I mean,
committee.
that first sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sentence she
I think that's
quoted.
good feedback. I agree.
Yeah. I
I'll
would
delete
agree
it.
too.
I'll
It does
rewrite
lead
it.
into the rest of the letter very nicely, so you may have to rewrite more than one sentence. but-
Yeah, well.
Oh, is that
uh,
to you?
I
Okay.
guess I have some homework over the weekend.
What was that?
I said, I guess I have some homework over the weekend. I'll take,
Keep you out of the sun.
Suggested edits over the weekend, and
Yeah.
we can kind of figure out how to forward them to the planner. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody, what's that? Oh, yes, Anne Marie.
That's all I have.
Right, so according to the memo from Hillary, everybody is gonna make their comments by Monday, the 19th. But Lincoln's not gonna be there. I will be watching. Oh,
I'm sure I'll see them.
you
Never,
don't.
never far from them.
Okay, and then we'll get the final adjustments and returns back by the 23rd. Yeah, I guess, you know, for me, the executive summary kind of lays it out, but it just doesn't feel compelling. I don't know what can happen to kind of make it feel a little bit more compelling. So that's a comment that I can go ahead and provide in my own. I think in the interest of time, we'll probably need to keep moving. Is that okay with everybody? And then everybody will get comments then. Okay. So, next thing on our agenda I guess we're actually, no, okay, outreach, communication, Tanya.
Sorry, I gotta put it in the minutes. I have a lot of meetings coming up with partners. You know, there's a lot of collaboration and people are still coming back from vacation, so. In the next couple weeks, I'll be talking to the San Juan Island Family Resource Center, working with Noxious Weeds, WSU, trying to come up with some plans for calendars, let's say. You know, we've got National Invasive Species Week coming up, different things we can highlight together. And also coordinating farmers markets. The San Juan Island is currently looking for a new farmers market coordinator. So I've written to the Ag Guild. I think they're taking on a calendar right now. And I'll reach out to Lopez and make sure the Orcas person. So, you know, lots of things happening. And then in the last couple of weeks, or just in the last week since I sent out the report, more volunteer events on San Juan, you know, things are popping up. We'll have a scoping meeting in March for Lopez. So still building the calendar. And then also next steps for strategic planning. And we sent out our first reel. That was very exciting for those social media people. It's a lot, that's social media, man. It takes like an hour just to make one of them, so. I mean, I joke with Lincoln, but it's funny. It's just how people reach, you know, reaching different aspects of the community.
Yeah, this stuff,
Yeah, if you have questions about that.
I don't understand it.
It's, it might.
What are your thoughts?
So I tried to give a basis for, at least what we can have for going forward as far as growing let's say the social media content, you know, how you're reaching, how the land bank is reaching, how the page is doing. And so Meta, as it is, so Facebook and Instagram, which are the two that we use, that's the baseline. Those I can actually, I don't know why I didn't print well, but I also took a screenshot from the statistics for the last year. And then I can start following that and see how that, you know, how different things work. You know, do we want to start promoting monthly some of the posts via ad, or is it enough to do it organically? You know, for those that are on social media, to please share the posts that we put out there, because that reaches other networks, perhaps folks that aren't necessarily.
Well,
But
I don't have an objection to them, but I don't understand it. So it would seem to me that a paragraph that of what these taught you, what's this teaching you? What are we
a
learning?
little summary for you.
Yeah, like-
Have to go with it, okay. that's
Facebook
exactly
new
right.
likes, 66. Is that important, good, goal? Do we have a objective? Instagram followers, 147. What's that mean?
Okay, I'll put it, I'll
just
send copy, how's
For
that?
guys like me or people.
No problem.
No, I agree.
And then this thing, not a chance. I can understand all that.
And this might be really obvious, but if you could just send us a link to each one of these addresses? Like, what's our Instagram account?
Oh,
Is that, probably if it's on the website, is that right?
there are links, I'll send you, yeah, I'll just send it to you, but basically, yeah, the links are on the website and, if you were on the media itself, like say Facebook, and you typed it in, you would find us, but I'll just send it to you and make it simpler.
I think it's great that you've got this information. I think, you know, being able to you can't fix anything or improve anything you can't measure.
Right.
So having it, Tanya, I think is a great step forward, just understanding it.
I had you in my head.
So, I mean, there are a couple of spikes that are really obvious.
Yeah, what are those for? I wondered about that.
So what did you do? You did something that just got these huge.
I'll be honest with you, it makes no sense to me. I mean, animals some days are really happy, another day, nobody wants the animal. One day, it's algorithm, so, you know, part of that.
I feel like there's an awful lot of information in the world that isn't gonna filter into each of our brains and may not be as useful as other things, such as a general discussion about the benefit of social media compared to our website management, compared to, you know, articles in local papers, that kind of thing. Mike and I, as the communications committee, had a great meeting with Lincoln and Tanya a week or two ago. And I feel like I'm just really trying to get my head up to speed on what it is we're doing. And, you you know, these details are overwhelming to me. But to know what is effective, I think just to be able to answer that basic question is what's effective, and recognizing that some people know what Instagram is, even though I don't. So I am willing to be educated, to a certain extent. But anyway, I thought we had a really good meeting, and I think that we're gonna meet every month. Anyway, that's, you know.
That was great.
Oh, right.
It was
gonna be there.
We're meeting. Okay, we're
Well,
not
I
meeting
would-
Monday.
I would also really like to be educated. I'm not on the communication team, but I don't necessarily follow all these things, but I would like to. Because I think there's important information. And if, yeah, there's something beyond Instagram and Facebook, then there's Meta.
I'll give you my best breakdown of social
Okay.
media. Maybe Brian can break it down for you.
Absolutely not.
Brian, okay, you get your hand up.
Yeah, Tanya, just one comment on the communications plan. I think it looks really good. It looks really ambitious. And particularly the goal of having 3 print media stories a month. I mean, I'd be very happy to have one, you know, shared among the various media organs. So we don't want to kill you with overwork. You have a lot to do. But I think one story a month would be great. We also don't want to, you know, have readers say, oh, it's the regular feature, and just become too routine and ignore it. But if we could do one good story with great pictures a month, that'd be great. So thank you for that anyway.
What was the purpose of all the articles at the end of it? That are just about things going on near properties that we have? Because I didn't see our name mentioned in any of them.
Oh, there were some links to different opinion pieces,
Yeah.
but you're right, you couldn't get there.
Oh, is it in the news, the articles at the end?
Yeah, the
we
articles at
used
the end.
to- Years ago, we had a section that was called In the News that we would add to the meeting materials. So if and I think that probably even predated social media, let's say, but when we were when there were more online, like update the blogs and things, so when the land bank would be mentioned in media, it got included in that. And I think one of them I put in there, getting back into that habit, it mentioned something about the land bank. Usually I would highlight it in there, so.
The thing was with that one, I couldn't tell who wrote it
This guy did.
because it got
Back
truncated.
here.
I think it's Sasha, just by recognizing
Looks
the
like it.
face.
I'll have to look, maybe,
It looks like.
you know, I just hit save as PDF and maybe.
Why would you write an article about
And then I think there's a
I'm just-
different name.
Okay, so we just couldn't see all of
I
that.
appreciate, but I just wondered, what was I supposed to be looking for, a mention of the land bank or anything?
That's why it would be in there, yeah. So it's possible that when I hit save as PDF from the website, that something just didn't convert correctly,
There,
and I didn't edit it. So I'll double check what.
county council.
Yeah.
Okay.
It might just
I
be.
think
a
it's good. I mean,
formatting
it's like a month in review of the
Mhm.
press. That's good, because
Yeah.
we don't all get that stuff. Correct.
One other reason to talk about communications more is, I get the sense from everybody who's talking about it, that the commissioners need to be a lot more involved
Different.
in communicating with the public, which means all of us may be signing up to write an article or a letter or, you know, speak to a group, hopefully with some staff support so that we have all the right answers. But I think that we need to have a little bit higher visibility in the community than we may have had in the last year or so. I'm not familiar with anything before that. So for us all to get really sharpened up on what it is we're doing and what other resources there, I think is a great idea. So I'm not going to speak for Mike, but Mike and I are really committed to doing what we can to help the communication committee move along.
And I must admit, I did not understand most of the metrics that you put out because I don't do social media, which may have to change. One thing that did strike me though is that it seemed that twice as many women as men read the postings. And that's sort of useful information. I'm sure there's a lot more information that I'm missing, but I can see why you do this.
Where'd you see that? I read the whole package. I don't see it.
You have to look really carefully. I thought, okay. Anybody else? And,
Are we still on the marketing or the communication outline?
okay,
Could, just for my area, what are examples of target audiences in the environmental area?
Well, maybe breaking it down, like Friday Harbor Labs, doing something with them. Pardon?
Trails.
Trails groups. I think it might have separated or, partnering, maybe it's friends, maybe it's Quiot, maybe, you know, trying to connect. I think of them, I guess, we had a great discussion on San Juan when we were talking about a calendar with stewardship.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be anything from like, there's a huge dog community on the islands, you know, so reaching dog communities, reaching out to the lab, reaching out to county employees, reaching out to kind of all these as a community, and then all these little subgroups that are within the community.
Yeah.
So environmental, anyone that, you know, might have science-based interest, you know, there's a focus for that. There's a focus for rec,
That
health.
also extends to social media where you have interest group pages. So
Yeah.
there's a birds and wildlife group.
Oh, there we go.
Audubon has their Facebook page. So sending things that go to those groups, which the admins will, if you're in that group, you can post it on there.
And they're limited to San Juan residents or that sort of thing. They're not Seattle based or something like Washington.
There's some, it depends on the group.
Okay.
So the groups have different bylaws or, bylaws. You have to agree to the group rules. And so in some cases you have to live there. In other cases, you just have to express why you're really interested. There's a whole assortment of them. But getting, being included in those groups and posting things to those groups is important. You also have to realize that a lot of the discussion, which will happen, for example, if there's a letter to the editor in the paper, I would say the reach of the journal is fairly limited because they have the subscription base now. It's not nearly as widely distributed as it used to be, but someone will take that and they will post it on one of these other groups, like on this island. Rant and Rave is a good example, but there are other ones too that are maybe a little bit more positive. What's Up Friday Harbor is a key one for people to get information about what's going on.
What's it called?
What's Up Friday
What's
Harbor.
Up?
yeah, really.
And that has largely supplanted both print media and also the way things used to work here, which was largely through word of mouth. A lot of that, these Facebook groups have taken the place of that in many instances. So you're seeing very real-time conversations happen on those boards. I would encourage people to, if you can really bring yourself to do it, being on Facebook is a good thing to do, to just see what's happening. You don't necessarily have to participate, but just going into those groups and seeing what the discussion is could be important. So we're monitoring that and we're interacting with those groups as necessary. But it's an important thing for us to do.
But I agree. I mean, I think there's a lot of really important community information there. I'm clueless. So What's Up Friday Harbor?
What's up, Friday Harbor? And one of the things I wanted to comment on is that Joseph Tyne is constantly posting references to either the Preservation Trust or the Land Bank or both in What's Up Friday Harbor.
And
so-
right.
Yeah, I don't forget the way that seems negative. But it's impressive to me how many people
realize that there's something happening, that, you know, because they're looking through that, they're using it to filter. Instead of going to our webpage, they're going to What's Up Friday Harbor, for instance.
Yeah.
And I don't know if those types of sites exist on the other two islands.
They do.
They do, okay. So that, I think, I would love to know what those sites are, so I
We
can track it.
we can connect you, but it is.
Okay.
I mean, Lopez is unique, you still use Lopez Rocks. I mean, that's your,
No, we
What's
have,
Up Friday, but that,
we have Lopez Community Board.
yeah, but I
or
would still
something
say
like that.
Lopez Rocks is
And you have.
your biggest piece, you know, community
Yeah.
piece for connection, but it shifts, things shift over time.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to have San Juan Update, that was the online blog, and then
It's gone.
and it went away, and I'd say that's when the Facebook page really started getting a lot of attention
I mean.
for anything, events, what's happening.
For
yeah.
absolutely anything,
Yeah.
like, why is my power out? And you will see, literally in 3 minutes, if you have access to power, you will tell. It was, oh, somebody ran into a telephone pole on Old Harbor Road. I mean, this is how people are getting their information.
And that would be on What's Up Friday Harbor, or Rant and Rave or something.
What's Up Friday Harbor?
Okay.
What do they do, just sit at home and wait for these things to happen?
That's what I. do.
Okay,
So how about I'll send you a list of what
That'd be
the
great.
most dominant that I know of, and you can always, it would be helpful if you know of other ones to share with me. But I'll send you the ones that I know.
that'd be great.
Good.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think we're supposed to close up pretty quick. Are there any other public comments? I would like to invite anybody to speak up, put your hand up if you do want to speak. Going, gone. Okay. Well, then I believe we can adjourn.
Are we ending early?
Huh? No, we're not early.
No, it goes till-
Like,
okay, so
we are.
Two minutes early.